Okay, so solving systems equation by elimination. So we're going to write the system, as you guys just told me, so that like terms with the same or opposite blank or aligned. Now, when we're talking about signs, when we're talking about like terms, we usually have the variable. What's in front of that variable?
Variable.
What's that?
The number.
Not constant. What's the number in front of a variable called? Say it again.
Coefficient.
Coefficient. Are aligned.
It seems like you're saying go fishing.
Actually, I don't do that in school.
Okay, so basically, you're going to write the system so that like terms with the same or opposite coefficient are aligned. So you may, what that means, you may have to look at your equations and change the setup of how your equation is written so that your like terms line up. And remember, a system, there's an equation on top and an equation on bottom. Okay, step 2. Once you do that, you're going to blank the two equations to eliminate a variable. Well, not combine. What operation will you have to do?
Multiply.
What operation? Mathematical operation.
Multiply.
What are the operations I gave you? So you're going to add or subtract the two equations. So add or subtract. Sorry that the line space isn't that big there. Add or subtract the two equations together to eliminate a variable. Right there, eliminate. This is the whole point of our lesson. We're learning how to eliminate one of the equations when possible to figure out what the solution is. Okay? Now, this won't work on every single system, and you'll see why in just a minute. So once you add or subtract the two equations together to eliminate a variable, so like where you have y equals 2x equals, or excuse me, y equals 2 plus 2y equals something, what are you going to do to solve? Well, I just told you. You're going to solve to get the value of the variable. I just totally told you that one. So once you solve to get the value of the variable, you're going to plug the value into one of the original equations and what again?
Substitute.
Not substitute. Plug in means substitute. You're going to solve again. So you're going to have two equations you're going to solve for.
Last one, simplify.
No.
It already seems difficult.
No, it's not, I promise you. So then step 5, you're going to write the values from 3 and 4 as a blank pair.
Order.
Yeah, ordered.
I wish I could order food. Me too.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Now, what I'm going to ask of you, I do not normally like putting the problems down in your note sheet for you to have because I hate when people work ahead. Because when they work ahead, they're not listening to the lesson, and then at some point they're going to ask like, well, what about this one? Or they're going to want to ask a question ahead. Please stay with me, okay? So, our first example, remember, we're going to either add or subtract to eliminate one of our variables here, okay? Our first step says, line up our equations so that the like terms are in line. Well, if you look, are our like terms lined up already? Yeah. So that step's done for us. Step 2 says add or subtract, right? So step 2 says add or subtract the two equations together to eliminate a variable. Yeah. So we get to pick. So where do we have a like term that has the same coefficient?
What do you mean?
Huh?
6y.
The 6y, right? So we want to eliminate this. So how can I eliminate this? By using which operation?
Hold on, I just said coefficient's numbered, right?
Coefficient is a number, yes.
Like terms.
So which like terms am I going to combine?
Negative 6y and positive 6y.
So what operation am I doing there to eliminate it? Adding. Which one? You have to pick one. Adding. So this is going to be the lesson that you guys have to determine. Are you going to add it or subtract it to eliminate that term? Yes.
Why are we adding?
We're adding it so that we eliminate this middle term. Let me show you. So I'm going to put an addition sign to show that I'm adding it.
If you subtract it,
I'm going to draw my line. Stay with me. If I subtract it, it would be negative 6 minus 6y, which would be negative 12y. So that's why we wouldn't have subtracted. Now, if I take negative 6 plus positive 6y, or negative 6 plus 6y, what happens to that? Yeah, they cancel. So all I'm going to do there is show that that cancels. So if that cancels, what do I now bring down?
5.
Now wait, we combine those like terms, so what am I going to have to do with these like terms?
Add
Add them. I'm going to have to combine them. So what's 5x plus 3x?
8x.
So I have 8x. Now, what am I going to have to do with these constants that are left? No, I'm going to take, yeah, negative 32 plus 48. What's negative 32 plus 48? Positive 16. Make sure you type things in your calculator appropriately. Now I solve. So I'm on my next step. It says solve for the variable. So how do I solve for x?
Divide.
Divide each side by 8.
You get x equals 2.
That's right. So
That's
x
the answer?
equals.
zero.
Now, a solution to a system, do we just have one answer? We have to have two answers. We have to write them as an ordered pair, right? That's the first part of the answer. So then my next step in my notes say, step 4, plug the value into one of the original equations and solve. That's going to get us our second answer. So we're basically going to substitute now. So which equation do you want to use? Does not matter, you guys.
5x minus 6y.
Okay, so we're going to use 5x minus 6y equals negative 32. Okay? Which of the variables do I know the value for now? So that's what I'm going to substitute for. So what am I going to place in place of the x? 2. So I'm going to substitute x minus 6y equals negative 32. Okay? And now I solve. Okay? So I get 10 minus 6y equals negative 32. I'm solving for y, so the next step is to minus 10.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like substitute.
You have to plug in to get the second part. It's a lot easier because if we were substituting, we'd have to go back and rewrite these equations, right?
Is that positive 42?
Well, negative 32 minus 10. You owe me $32, and now you owe me 10 more.
Alright.
So what's it going to be?
Negative 42.
Okay. How do I get the y by itself?
Divided by negative 6.
Divide by negative 6. Maddie, you getting this down? Okay. Two negatives when you divide or multiply is going to equal a
Positive
Pod-
7.
positive 7. Okay. So that's it.
Same these.
Besides that, we have to rewrite our answer as an ordered pair. So down here we have the answer. I even gave you guys parentheses and the comma, so you just have to plug them in. So what's my x value
2.
and my y value?
7.
Guys, I don't know if we did this right.
Why?
I just don't know. So if, did you catch that? If you are unsure if you completed this problem correctly or not, what can you do to ensure that your answer is right?
Opposite.
Ben?
We could put the numbers in the thing, so like 5x equals 2 and 6x equals 6y and then equals 7.
So basically you're saying we're going to just pick any of these equations and substitute to see if each side is equal to the other?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it. You do not have to write this if you choose not to. So what did we say x equaled?
2.
And what do we say y equals?
7.
Equals negative 32. Okay. So I just want to simplify to see each of these signs if they ended up being equal. So 5 times 2 is 10. Negative 6 times 7 is negative 42. What's 10 minus 42?
32. Negative 32.
Yeah. Okay. If both sides of the equal sign are the same, then we know that our solution is correct. Okay? So if you're ever unsure, you can check your work by substituting in your answers. Okay, let's take a look at the you try. Hey, Chance, can you set it for me, bud? Okay, I just want you to stay away from me. Okay, the next one. So we're going across. So we're not going down, we're working across in our notes here. The first part of your notes say, line up your like terms with your coefficients. Are my like terms already lined up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if that's already lined up for me, what's the next step I'm going to do?
which one do you want to use? Minus?
I'm going to either add or subtract in order to eliminate one of my terms here, right? So what do you think I'm going to do? Well, which one am I trying to get rid of? Which one has the same variable and the same coefficient?
3y.
Yeah. So how do I eliminate this middle? Which operation am I going to have to do to?
Why did we pick 2? Subtract.
Oh, why didn't we? We could.
That's what I was saying.
We can.
It's the exact same.
So in this one, does it matter? No. So you're going to have to look. There's 2 different ways that you can solve this one. Now, you can choose to eliminate this right here, your negative 3y plus 3y. If you would choose to eliminate those, which operation would you do?
Plus.
Okay. If you want to eliminate the 2x and 2x, which minus. So which do you think is easier? Is it going to be easier to add or subtract? Add. Because if you start subtracting, you might have to deal with some more negatives. So why don't we go ahead and add this one just to keep it a little bit easier for us. So I'm going to show that I'm adding it. I'm going to draw my line of equality. And I'm going to show that when you add negative 3y plus 3y, they eliminate one another. And then I go ahead and I combine my like terms, or I start solving my equation. So when I go to start solving my equation, I have to take 2x plus 2x to get
4x equals 20.
How did you get 20, Ben?
16 plus 4 equals 20.
Good. And then I continue solving. How do I get the x by itself?
Divide by 4, and you get 5.
So x equals 5.
I'm sorry.
Geez, Josh. Make sure you say x equals, because that is important. Ben will keep you in line.
Messing up, guys.
Don't disappoint us, Josh. Okay. So then I've now completed step 1, step 2, step 3. So I'm to step 4. Plug the variable into the original equation and solve. Okay? So which equation do you guys want to use?
Bottom.
The bottom one? Okay, so we're going to use 2x plus 3y equals 4. And what am I going to plug in or substitute for?
X and 5.
Okay, so I'm going to have 2 times 5 plus 3y equals 4. Okay? Hey, you should have this down. You don't have any of this down. Right here. Okay? Now what, Maddie? It's okay.
Times
Okay, and you get,
15.
whoa, try that again.
10.
Oh, 10, I'm sorry.
10 plus 3y. Okay,
That equals 4. And minus 10. Oh, I know. You gotta divide the 3 on equals signs.
and you get negative 6 divided by 3.
2.
What kind of 2?
-2.
There we go. So the answer is going to be what?
5 negative 2.
5, -2.
Easy. It's a lot easier.
Okay, so I always like to, especially this year because it's a learning year for me as well. Do you feel like starting with this would have been better
Oh, yeah.
than to start with substitution? I still have to teach substitution.
My brain can actually handle this.
So do you think start off with this and end with substitution?
Yes.
Okay. Next year, for them, I'll do that.
It'll be a lot easier.
And I'll tell them that they have you guys to thank for it. Okay, let's look at our next example problem. Maddie, if you don't get this down, you say, hey, Miss Littleton, slow down for a minute.
Oh, no, wait.
You got it?
Hey, I got
Okay.
an idea. We should let them do substitution.
And be like, ha, 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 my kids last year said to mix it up, but I didn't because they wanted you guys to suffer.
Yes.
I
Exactly.
Okay, step 1 right here says, again, line up your like terms so that your coefficients and your terms are lined up. Is that true in this case?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Which variable do you guys feel that we are going to eliminate?
3
3.
negative 3.
Okay. So we're going to eliminate a variable. What variable? X. So if I want to eliminate my x, I have negative 3x and 3x. Which operation am I going to use to eliminate them? Plus addition. Yeah. So I'm going to show that it's addition. So negative 3x plus 3x, they eliminate one another. And now I'm ready to go ahead and combine like terms and then begin solving. So I'm going to have to take 5y. Now 5y plus positive 7y. You guys, you understand that's just basically 5y plus 7y, correct? Okay, so 12 what?
Equals -12.
So then you have negative 11 plus negative 1, which is basically negative 11 minus 1, which is negative 12. Okay? Divide by 12. Good, Riley. Y equals negative 1. What's my next step going to be now?
Substitute.
In either of the equations. Which equation are we going to substitute in?
Top.
Okay? So we're going to have negative 3x plus 5. What do I substitute for y? Negative 1 equals negative 11. Okay? Anybody?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Ben?
negative 5, negative 3x plus a minus negative 5 equals negative 11,
Okay.
plus 5 on both sides. Negative 6 equals negative 3, or negative 3 equals negative 6. Divided by negative 3, you get positive 2.
Correct.
Nice. My final answer then is
2, negative 1. Negative 1.
nice. Yeah, I'll wait.
Man, you really should start with this.
Yeah, I agree with
Josh?
substitution.
Do you just feel like you can breathe now?
I'm angry.
You should be elated. Just think, I could have made it even harder.
I sucked so much at the first one.
I can't wait till second semester.
People have to.
Because I'm out of this class.
You'll be so sad.
No, I don't have to do math for the rest of the year.
Okay, do we all have this down?
I hate math.
Good, hold on. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at our next one here. Give it a shot. See what you guys can do. Give it a shot. While you guys are working on it, I'm going to freeze the screen, hopefully, and I'm going to solve it, and then we're going to match up to see if our answers end up being the same.
Can we choose if it's multiple or
You'll have to pick the correct one in order to make it work. So you know when I say the correct one, the correct operation. So you'll have to choose if you are going to have to add to eliminate one of your variables, or if you're going to have to subtract to eliminate one of your variables.
I did something wrong.
Let's just take it back, do the other problem.
Did you find your mistake, Josh?
I didn't have a mistake.
Or I thought you.
Couldn't do it in my head. I didn't think you could do it, like whatever I had done. So I put it in the calculator, and it came out.
So you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Do it on
The most simplest of all problems my brain could not handle.
Well, I think it's because you were trying to remember if you could do that based on the syntax error.
Yeah.
Okay, when I'm walking around and I'm looking at papers, I see some of you guys have given it a good shot. You started. Yep.
That's not what I got. Oh, I was like, yeah, that's not what I got at all.
I got 0, -1.
I didn't get that either.
This one's not lined up.
It is lined up. Okay, let's take a look at it so we don't run out of time.
Just like
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Okay, so I'm going to unfreeze it. Before I unfreeze it, what did you get for your answer?
negative 5
0,
or 1.
negative
Or
1.
negative 5 1.
Nope.
Really?
Ben, what'd you get?
Zeros, comma, negative 1.
Yep.
Yay.
Come back. Here we go. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Write it down in your notes so that you have it. You want good notes so you can use it on your quiz. So you guys were right in assuming that we're going to add them in order to eliminate the x. Okay? So then if you take 3, got it? There we go. If you take 3 plus negative 5, what's 3 plus negative 5? It's basically 3 minus 5. You get negative 2y equals, and then what's negative 3 plus 5? Positive 2. Go ahead and solve it. You get negative 1. Then when I go to substitute for y, negative 3 plus 3, it's a 0. To get the x by itself, when I divide any number, if I take 0 and divide it by any number, it's going to be 0.
I used the bottom. and
Okay.
I got negative 5.
So you got negative 5 for what? Your y?
Yeah. No, my x.
Your x? So even if you use the bottom, you should still get 1. I'll check your math in just a minute.
Oh,